Welcome in to the Stardom Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Stefen McKinney, joined as always by Jacob Stevens and Ashton Mitchell. We're now 8 weeks into the NFL season. We've seen 8 weeks of action. I think we have a pretty good grasp on, who's going to be productive and, maybe some of the guys that were question marks. Most of the season we were waiting for some of these guys to kind of break out, or we were holding on with our hopes for some of these guys, and it looks like we're getting a clearer picture of what to expect moving forward here. But we got 4 weeks on bye again this week. We have the Philadelphia Eagles, LA Rams, Cleveland Browns, and the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of relevant fantasy players there. We're going to be talking news. We're going to be talking the first half of our matchups, and that's kind of it today. We're going to do a short one. And then I think we're going to pack a little bit more onto the second episode of the week. But how are you guys doing today? How did y'all's matchups turn out this week?
Better than yours. Not much better though. I was 2-3. Tom Brady made me lose in 2 different leagues. One because he threw a touchdown, and the other end of it was he threw one to Mike Evans. So that was 2 of my 3 losses. Also, I had a must-win situation in our main league, and I just so happened to pull off a win, so get me back to 500, and so I'm feeling pretty confident.
Very nice. How about you, Ashton?
2 for 4. 2 for 4.
Split it right down the middle, huh?
Just
I have my.
You did have one big win though, right?
I did. I broke my. I was on a pretty bad losing streak in one of the leagues I commish, and I broke that streak. So I'm back on the winning side now.
I'm very proud of you.
It just feels good. It feels right.
Right.
Feels right to win. Yeah.
It feels right.
Right, left. Yeah. I get it.
Jacob and I have a big matchup this week. This is our last regular season matchup in all the leagues that we play together in. Currently, the records are looking
You're
like
considering this is a big matchup. This is nothing for me.
2 wins for Stefen versus 0 wins for Jacob. Ashton, I think you're in a similar situation with Jacob as well. Haven't you beat Jacob in both your matchups?
I think I've lost to both you guys.
I don't think he's beaten any of us yet.
Yeah, I don't even set my roster anymore when I see Jacob's my opponent.
Yeah, it's
Forget the buys.
An easy write-down W.
Let it fly.
But yeah, so that'll be the matchup to watch for you, Ashton. Make sure you check out the dynasty matchup between me and Jacob. See if I can get the clean sweep, 3-0 regular season sweep versus Jacob. But yeah, let's jump into the news real quick. I got a couple notes here. If you guys have anything else, feel free to add it in. The big one is AB is back. He's active, ready to go.
News and notes.
Man, this is
now you can begin. Now you can start.
He just threw that in your face. Took over.
Yeah, he didn't even care that I started talking. He's like,
in our notes it always says pause for Jacob, and there was nothing.
If you don't pause, you pay.
Added.
Back to the news. Antonio Brown has been activated to the active roster. His suspension's over. He's ready to suit up, ready to go. I guess we've talked about Antonio Brown in the last couple episodes, kind of our expectations. We haven't got words yet on Chris Godwin's official status for this week. We don't know if he's leaning one way or the other to play yet. But yeah, I mean, Antonio Brown is active. I mean, would you guys have the confidence if you picked up Antonio Brown to just throw him right into your lineup?
Seeing how quickly he was involved when he became a Patriot, I mean, there's a good upside to it, right? But I think I'd be a little bit cautious. I'd monitor the Chris Godwin status. Mm-hmm. I'm on the edge where I think Godwin will probably sit out again this week. But that's something we just need to monitor and keep an eye on. If that is not the case and Godwin comes into play, I think AB is a solid flex play. I think they're going to use him, but I think his ceiling will be a little bit higher if Godwin's out. So, but who's to say for sure until we actually see it in action for the first time. So, but I can't imagine they just bring him on for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they said he came in looking great and just like in game shape, like ready
Oh
to go.
yeah.
Bruce Arians was very pumped up about that. And apparently he worked out with Tom Brady all summer long. I know it's different when you're still learning a playbook and stuff. Who knows if TV slid him a little playbook so he gets some studying in the offseason. But AB's actually living with Tom now. Probably try to keep him out of trouble and welcome him to the neighborhood, I'm assuming. But for me, fantasy wise, if I have to play him, if it's like all I've got, I'll do it. I probably won't go to the waivers, but I'm probably gonna let him just get in there, maybe one game, see kind of what it looks like.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, it's always a big risk to start someone without actually seeing some sort of evidence, in real time. They're playing the Saints again. Tampa Bay's already played the Saints earlier in the season and didn't go in their favor, but the Saints are in the back half or in the bottom half against wide receivers in fantasy. So matchup is a little bit in their favor. But yeah, I think if you can go to a better option just so you see what you have in Antonio Brown, I think that's probably the safest way to go. But we saw it with Antonio Brown in New England where he came in his first game and scored the touchdown and produced for you. So if you have confidence in just knowing what Antonio Brown can do from the past, take that chance.
Yep.
Next piece of news is there was some bigger injuries this week. Myles Gaskin is expected to miss 3 weeks. So maybe we finally actually get to see a little bit of Matt Breida and Jordan Howard. Everybody drafted them like they were going to be, playing or at least get some sort of significant
Well, I think
steps.
most people thought that. Okay, I think that was a fair thought at the time.
Yep.
Clearly didn't know the gas man was coming.
And then they also made the trade for DeAndre Washington from Kansas City. So we'll have to see what his involvement in that backfield looks like right off the bat. But I guess out of those three, is there anybody that you have the most confidence in or would even consider possibly playing in deeper leagues?
Who are they playing against?
Miami is taking on.
Oh, they're playing the Cardinals.
There you go.
I mean, it's not. None of it's exciting. I think Jordan Howard has been healthy scratches time after time.
Yeah.
Time after time. So I would probably lean Breida if I was gonna go anybody there. I don't think someone that just comes over with is it Washington or Booker? DeAndre Booker, Washington.
DeAndre Washington.
Yeah, I think I'd go Breida there.
Yeah, if Breida's ready to roll.
Yeah, I mean,
you roll.
Shoot him a
Breida.
text pregame, see what's popping. Hey.
It's been pretty disappointing, Breida's involvement so far in this offense, but I mean, we've seen it with Gaskin that, the Miami running back can be a fantasy asset to you. So Matt Breida might actually be someone that pays off as a fantasy option in these next couple of weeks. They have Arizona this week, the Chargers next week, and then Denver, who has been a super stout rush defense in the final week that we're expecting Gaskin to be out. So he might be a nice play for this week and next. Next piece of news is that San Francisco team just obviously got
falling
depleted. Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle are expected to miss extended time and possibly the rest of the season for both of them. We were actually kind of texting about this a little bit during this week, just because from my perspective, it's just I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo has looked great all year. I mean, he's been disappointing, and it seems like every time he's either benched or leaves the game with an injury, between Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard,
he was benched because of an injury. Okay, let's not do that.
That's what the speculation is. But I think Beathard and Mullins have come in and looked better. Like in terms of their passing offense, I feel like they've been more productive. Like they've been able to come out and get their wide receivers involved. We saw it this week. Like Nick Mullins came in and threw a couple touchdowns right off the bat, got the offense moving. Brandon Ayuk got more involved. It just looked like a better moving offense with Nick Mullins in. So what does that do for your confidence for that San Francisco offense in terms of their fantasy options?
It was already dwindling. And I think we talked about it. It was like I think last week we said we'd start Kittle and Ayuk with I think Debo was out. I think that was, and Ayuk we weren't like super sure on. Obviously, he balled out this week.
Oh, dude, he was my start of the week, so I was sure on him.
Right, you knew. But LaMichael Hasty. LaMichael Hasty's still there. Mostert's going to be out a little bit longer. I think the receiving options definitely. I don't know. It's like you said, Mullins has looked good, but overall, like holistically, when Jimmy G is there, they play better. They win more games. But if they're losing games with these guys, it means maybe they're going to be throwing the ball more. So I don't know. It's definitely scary stuff. I think Ayuk and Hasty is all I would really play there, probably.
Okay.
Scared though. Don't get me wrong.
Fair enough. No interest in McKinnon now that we have Tevin Coleman's going to be ruled out of this game, so it's literally going to be McKinnon and Hasty left. Do you have confidence in McKinnon, or are you still just giving Hasty the go?
What did McKinnon do this week? Because they've been limiting him because they're scared. But he put up 10 points, so he's definitely got the receiving. He had 4 receptions for 40 yards and 3 carries for -1 yard. So
and a touchdown, -1 yard, but somehow he scored a touchdown.
Yeah. I think I'd lean Hasty for now.
Fair. Ashton, what about you?
I'm looking at Hasty's numbers for this week right now. Yeah, I'm probably leaning a little bit towards Hasty. I thought he looked pretty speedy out there and had a good burst. If he can hold that over with Green Bay, that'd be a great showing. They're gonna have to rely a lot more on the run game. If there's any sign of trouble under center, so
right.
It's just a lot to rely on if their only passing option is Brandon Ayuk. So
what about your boy Jordan Reed? He should be back off the IR.
If it wouldn't shock me.
He'll at least have a quarter or two before he gets injured again.
Before he gets another concussion.
Before he's out for another 6 games. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if he came in and did some work, but Ayuk's seriously your only option in the passing game right now.
And the last piece of news that I have, AJ Dillon was apparently had a positive COVID test, and there was Jamal Williams was one of the people that they considered in close contact with AJ Dillon and in close exposure. So both of them have been placed on the COVID IR list and have been ruled out already for this game in Week 9. And Aaron Jones still isn't cleared yet. That we don't know that he's going to play again. So we could see the 4th and 5th string options here for Green Bay, which is I'm not sure at what point you stop starting running backs in the NFL, but you're going to see a mixture of Dexter Williams and Tyler Ervin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the two fellas, but those are the guys you might be seeing.
Not exactly exciting. And San Francisco still has a decent run defense. So, yeah.
DJ Dallas. He did fine
but he was crap. He just had 2 touchdowns.
Hey man, don't downplay DJ Dallas.
He's like 1 yard per carry.
All right. Is there any other news that you guys had that you wanted to bring up before we move on to these matchups?
Obviously, the Cowboys benching Ben DiNucci.
I can't believe it. Confirmed yet, or is it still kind of up in the air?
I think I saw it on NFL Trade Rumors, which is normally pretty. It's normally reported by Ian Rappaport and all those good guys. But it might have been the throw, like that throw.
Sidearm? He threw every single pass sidearm for some reason.
Benching him for who?
Weird.
Cooper Rush. He was the backup last year, and they waived him for Ben DiNucci at the start of this year.
What a mistake that was.
Y'all are just struggling right now.
We'll take anybody that wants to play quarterback. Come on over. We'll give you a shot.
Are y'all tanking? Are y'all tanking for
Washington
Trevor?
football team? Do we?
I don't think we're choosing to tank. It's just happening every game.
So y'all getting Trevor Lawrence this year?
No. That's not going to happen. But yeah, that's all the news I have. If you guys don't have anything else, we can jump right into Thursday's game.
Let's do it.
Cool. All right, Thursday's game, like we said,
We're just talking about all the missing pieces.
These depleted teams here. We got Green Bay taking on San Francisco. At face value, we thought this was going to be one of the better Thursday night games that we've seen, or primetime games that we've seen lately. I mean, obviously you expect Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams just to keep on humming at this point. They're just taking on everybody and doing just fine. But let's talk about that running back situation real quick. We just said that Aaron Jones could possibly miss this game again. It seemed like this was a day-to-day situation when we first heard of the report with Aaron Jones being banged up, but he's now missed 2 games straight. So we have to really consider the possibility that he misses again. What is y'all's take on actually the possibility of playing either Dexter Williams or Tyler Ervin? Is that something you're considering? I mean, people are hurting at running back. People have to find someone that's going to get snaps, someone that's going to get carries. Are either of these guys someone that you'd play?
Man, it's scary. It's just scary. I don't really want too much of it. San Francisco, like I said, they do have a pretty good rushing defense. Obviously, DJ Dallas had two touchdowns this past week, but like I said, the yards per carry were super low. It's too much. I mean, it's too for me. I'm too scared. I'm just not that brave. How about you guys? What do you think? Would you take the shot? I don't even know these people. I don't know who's going to do what.
I've tried to look into some articles with this. It seems like Dexter Williams would be getting a little bit more of the work, but it's probably going to be split. I honestly don't know. I don't know enough. I haven't seen enough, so I have no idea which way to sway on this. If I had to make a decision on this, I would try to look for other options until I could. Unless you're in a pickle and you have to make a choice, and there's no one else to pick, and you think you're going to get volume out of one of these two players, then go for it. But this is a situation that I'm probably going to try to avoid if Aaron Jones is out.
Yeah, I mean, the sad thing is one of these guys is probably gonna have a good game, just because we know how Green Bay utilizes their running back position. They get him involved as a receiver as well as through the tackles. But I mean, Dexter Williams hasn't had a single carry on the year. Tyler Ervin has 4 carries on the year, but apparently Tyler Ervin is having some of his own injury troubles and is nursing an injury himself. So, I mean, it's tough to really know which one's going to be the guy. You're taking a risk if you start either one of them. And as Jacob said, like, this is the top rush defense or the top defense against the running back position in fantasy. So it's definitely a risk, but given what the running back situation looks like right now with so many injuries, I mean, you might be forced into starting one of them. So I keep an eye out on that report. Aaron Jones still has the possibility to play.
He's limited today and yesterday, actually. So I think it's looking like a game time decision on.
And it sucks because it's a Thursday night game, like.
Oh yeah, you're just stuck. You're screwed for the week. So if you do decide to start any of them, make sure they're in your running back position and not your flex.
Right.
And Irvin's injury was a wrist injury. Then they said he was limited Monday, but it seems to be
full
fine
practice
now.
Today.
Yeah, full practice today. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think this news, obviously, if Aaron Jones isn't a go, I think Robert Tonyan is actually a good play this week.
Tonyan, please.
Tonyan
the Onion.
No, I refuse to call him by his right name until he does something good again.
Hey,
but yeah,
he had a good week, didn't he?
I've been down on him. I don't think so. Did he?
I thought he was there leading.
Devontae Adams had 2 touchdowns. He wasn't leading anything.
He was leading in yards. I'm almost sure. 5
for 79. So yeah, I mean,
boom, baby, what's up?
I think he was my start of the week too.
I mean, 5 for 79, not great. All right, we're not gonna shout
79
off the mountaintop for him, but yeah, I think he can be more involved if Aaron Jones misses here, and they really can't rely on that running back position. But let's jump over to the San Francisco side. We already said Ayuk is probably the only receiving option that you start, and Hasty is the one we're leaning on a little bit more than McKinnon.
But they both could actually be decent starts, with Green Bay being the worst run defense in the league.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Would you start both of those guys over Dexter Williams and Tyler Irvin if Aaron Jones misses?
Yes.
I would definitely lean more towards Hasty right now.
But if you would lean more towards Hasty, would you start McKinnon over Dexter Williams and Tyler Irvin? You got limited time here, bud. You got
no. I think I'm gonna lean off of McKinnon right now.
Okay.
I'm still gonna lean towards Hasty. Sorry, I'm just thinking about.
You told me they were going to lean on the running game, and now you tell me this. What's going on, Ashton?
I think they're going to have to. I said, depending if they have any struggles in passing with Mullins under center. So yes, I think they're going to start off trying to do air work, but I mean they're one of the heaviest running offenses in the league. They're not going to jump off script too much. You know what I mean? They're still going to push the run game. So I just don't know how successful they're going to be in either one right now. They're pretty banged up. So it's just a tough scenario right now in San Francisco.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to the next game, our Sunday games. We got Houston taking on Jacksonville. We'll start on the Houston side because there's some surprising news on Jacksonville's end as well. So let's start on Houston. They had their bye last week. We're still starting. I guess there's really 4 guys that we continue to start these last couple of weeks. Is there any new surprises that kind of stick out as people that you would start?
No, I mean, I think your receiving options are pretty good there with Will Fuller, who did not get traded, and Brandon Cooks. David Johnson, I mean, he's been solid. I mean, he hasn't been great, but he hasn't been awful. So, yeah, I mean, I think every one of the Texans, this is a good matchup. Obviously, it gets a little more dicey on the Jacksonville side.
Yes, it does.
All right, well, let's move on to Jacksonville then. So with Jacksonville, obviously, or I don't know if it's obviously, but news came out that Gardner Minshew had been playing through some injuries. I think he had multiple fractures in his thumb. It wasn't just one.
And a torn, I think it was a torn ligament.
Really? Yeah. I heard just
up.
multiple fractures, which is pretty surprising because if you have multiple fractures in there's only one bone in your thumb.
Have you ever played basketball or football and jammed your thumb and tried to grip anything after that? I can't. I'm surprised he was throwing it 5 yards, much less what he was actually doing out there in the field. And he did it for 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks.
Oh, no, it's fine. It barely hurts.
Yeah, his thumb's like pointing the other direction. He's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
It was a childhood accident. No worries here.
This is the same guy that broke his own hand in college. Do you remember that story?
Oh, I never heard that story.
I don't know.
Yeah, look into the hand situation. He broke his own hand in college. I think it was college. Yeah.
On purpose?
Yes.
Wow.
Man, that guy's a badass.
Well, at this point,
he's
looking
a different
like
breed.
We're gonna see either the rookie Jake Luton or Mike Glennon. He seems to be a wily old veteran at this point. But news so far has been that Jake Luton has been taking the starting reps in practice. I don't know if you favor one or the other, but it looks like Jake Luton is most likely to be the starter here, but not 100% guaranteed. So what does that really do to the value of these other fantasy options for you? Is James Robinson still like a guaranteed start for you with a new quarterback under center?
I think he's the only one you can start.
Yeah, Chark and Cole have been a little bit of disappointment in the past couple weeks.
Especially Chark.
Yeah, Chark's been on a downward
but
spiral.
He's been injured. Like it feels like the whole season now.
Well, and now that we know the scenario with, Thumbgate here, it kind of puts things a little bit more into perspective because there was a lot of missed opportunities with.
He had 14 targets 2 weeks ago against Detroit, and he had 7 catches because the passes were so bad. Because
the passes
all broken. It did.
Well, some did hit his hands. He still didn't catch it too. So
he felt the pain of Gardner Minshew's finger.
It carried through the ball in the air.
He was like, ah.
But yeah, Robinson's is still going to be a safe start. I don't think that's going to change anything with Luton or Glennon. Glennon. I feel like it's gluten.
Gluten free.
Do we call this gluten?
What about
Houston has the 29th ranked rush defense.
What about what?
I mean, Houston's defense is favorable to every position. That's why this is a great game for Jacksonville options. It's just how confident can you be
I'm not
with a
confident
new
at all.
quarterback?
And Jake Luton.
Maybe they just need a change of scenery out there under center, and maybe this will help pick up the pass game again. So
I mean, Gardner Minshew hasn't been great, so
Well, it's because he had a broken thumb. I'll give him a break. Start the season on fire, snapped his finger in half, and this is what's going on.
Jacob's a Minshew believer.
I know. I remember.
Minshew mania.
Even though he dropped him.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean,
We will.
I will probably keep Chark on my bench this week. I'd still hang on to Cole and see what happens.
Any interest in Laviska Shenault?
Absolutely not.
No.
Okay.
Not this week.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next one. We got the New York football team, the New York Giants taking on the Washington football team. Two football teams going against each other. Let's start with the Giants side of the ball. They look better. We saw them actually be in a competitive game last night on Monday Night Football. I guess where are we at with this running back situation? Obviously, Devonta Freeman missed the Monday night game. Wayne Gallman stepped in and actually did
Alfred Morris, really just he looked great out there. Don't you think, Ashton?
Oh yeah.
That was so weird. I was like, you figured you'd feed Wayne Gallman at that point, but I don't know. The Washington football team, they're a decent little rush defense. What do you think they're mashing? Top 5, actually. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna avoid anything in the Giants' backfield. I think they're gonna have to pass the ball. That's where Washington's defense is weak right now, is they're in the secondary. So, if they're smart, which that's a gamble in and of itself, they would lean towards the pass game. If Freeman's able to play, I mean, if you have him, he might be a decent flex.
You know what's crazy?
I know what you're going to say.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
We'll see.
Is that the Washington football team is the number 1 team against wide receivers? But I can tell you the reason why.
Look, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this.
Is that what you were going to say?
Allowed one. They've allowed 40 points week 2 against Arizona. But other than that, it has been abysmal. People haven't scored like more than 15, 17 points. Whew.
I'm going to tell you why, though. I'm going to
Tell me why.
It's because they get down by so many points so early that teams have to stop throwing the ball against them.
But then the rush defense holds them. So
yeah, because their rush defense is actually good. They have a really good defensive line. Everybody can admit that they have a good defensive line. But if this is actually going to be a competitive game.
How do they go up on them?
Like these are two crappy teams. Well. It's going to be competitive back and forth. So I'm not worried about the Washington secondary being the number 1 defense against fantasy wide receivers. Sterling Shepard has been the leading receiver for the Giants since he has made his return. So I think Sterling Shepard's a fine start here. And I think this is a week that you can play Darius Slayton as well. I think this is a week that you might see a good touchdown from Daniel Jones to Darius Slayton.
Who's going to win this game?
I don't know, but it doesn't really matter, does it?
I don't know.
Washington. Washington's going to win.
Good answer.
I don't know. It could go either way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but
Washington's gotta continue to compete for first place in the NFC.
How about Ingram? Ingram put on a show against Tampa Bay, guys.
Yeah, he seemed to be a little bit more involved now, which it seems like those last couple of weeks they've been trying to get him more involved. We've already seen this game once before, and Evan Ingram wasn't too involved before, so I am kind of worried. He's
evolved, and now he's more involved.
That makes sense.
Boom. So what do you think? You wouldn't start Ingram? I'd start Ingram here, I think.
Yeah, I think with tight ends you're probably having to start Ingram every week. So I don't know if you're pivoting away from that for a better option.
How about on the Washington side? Ashton, who are we starting?
Gibson, Terry, and I am still leaning towards Logan Thomas. I think he could be a good matchup.
I acquired him in a trade.
You should have. You're a smart man.
I didn't want him. It was just a throw-in piece, but I was like,
that's not
just
true.
to offset the players.
Clearly the deciding factor in that trade.
He was the target.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with those players.
Fair enough. I mean, I think, what did y'all's take on? I mean, like I said, we've seen this game before. We saw it back in week 6. Gibson wasn't super involved, but we saw him against Dallas, against the Giants. Didn't have the best game. Only had 9 carries for 30 yards and 4 catches for 25 yards. Do you think now that we saw he got the 20 carries against Dallas, they had their bye? Do you think that is really what we're going to see going forward? Is that he's going to be more of that, super involved running back with 15 plus carries every game, or do you think it's more of what we've seen the rest of the season?
I'm not going to view New York. I'm not going to sleep on the Giants defense right now. I mean, they still have a pretty decent pass rush. And they're, I don't know what the numbers are with the run game. Are you able to pull that up?
Yeah, they're 18th against the running back in fantasy.
I would say that Gibson gets 15 touches in this game.
That's fair. I mean, normally with the bye weeks, they kind of will look back at what they've done so far and like see if they need to work someone in different ways. I think Gibson, after the Dallas game, I don't know how you don't put him out there. He averaged 6.4 yards per carry. I know it's an abysmal defense.
Everybody does.
I don't like saying that. But I think Gibson is definitely the more versatile and the player. I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a top 24 running back the rest of the way.
All right, let's move on to this next one.
Okay.
We have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, this is a nightmare matchup in terms of fantasy options, just because these defenses have been so great. But there's also a lot of options for fantasy on both sides. Let's start with Baltimore. I mean, I didn't think we'd ever have this discussion when we started the season, but I guess where are we at with Lamar Jackson? Like, we saw last week, we didn't want to start him against Pittsburgh. People are still doing it. He came out and scored 14.8. Like, he didn't give you the game you wanted from him. Where do you stand now? Or do you play Lamar Jackson, or do you look for another option?
Man, it's tough. You when you draft somebody like that, but if you're losing games because of Lamar Jackson in tough matchups, then you have to move away from Lamar Jackson. If you have a better option, like not just like willy-nilly, oh, well, I'm just going to try someone else. Like, I mean, like I could have done it. I had Herbert and I decided to start Lamar Jackson because I am stupid. So there's that. But I mean, I won that game, thankfully. And 15 points, that doesn't kill you because he has the rushing floor. So you're always there. I don't think it gets lower than that. That was his worst game of the season. And he had 4 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. I mean, if you don't have a better option, I'm okay with you starting him. But if you do, by all means, at this point, the bad matchups do not work out for him.
Would you start Stafford or Lamar Jackson?
Who's Stafford playing?
The Minnesota.
I don't know, man.
He doesn't have Kenny G.
Very disappointing.
And Kenny G's
He
out.
had a good game last week. Stafford looked good last week.
That was the
With
best
Kenny
game of
G
the
out.
season you had.
But Marvin Jones had a good game.
I mean, he had
Big
3
Marv.
catches. He just got 2 touchdowns.
It's all right.
start Lamar.
It's a good sign. We're going in the right direction.
I'd start Lamar.
I don't think I would. I think I'd start Stafford.
I'm leaning Stafford too.
Well, Lamar's going to play better and score more points. So
That's what you said last week about him over Herbert, and didn't work out for you.
I didn't say that. I just
You said it by your lineup choices.
Oh, that's not it. I didn't say it out loud.
All right, let's talk
Kept
about
it to
these.
myself.
Let's talk about these running backs. Obviously, Mark Ingram missed last week, and J.K. Dobbins came in, and we expected him to kind of take over in this back half of the season.
Gus Edwards.
And he got his opportunity. J.K. Dobbins looked really, really good last week. Got over 100 yards rushing against a really bad matchup in Pittsburgh. Like, this is another bad matchup in Indianapolis, and we might have Mark Ingram back now. If Mark Ingram plays, do you play any of these guys?
I mean, in this matchup, no.
No.
If Mark Ingram doesn't play, do you play Edwards or Dobbins?
I think you could.
It's a gamble, but
I'd take Dobbins.
I might take Edwards.
I mean, they're both great. I mean, Dobbins put up 15 for 113. and 12 points. And Edwards put up 16 for 87 and a touchdown for 14.7 points. So, I mean, they're both great options, but it just seems like when Mark Ingram plays, he just depletes everybody because he doesn't do anything. And then Dobbins and Edwards don't get the
That's
touches.
correct.
So,
Yeah, it's not a fun time to be owning, but I mean, I don't think anyone's been starting those guys for too long now.
Yeah.
A lot of people dropped Dobbins. I picked him up on the waivers this past week. But
All-
I would say Andrews, I'd start Andrews. And are you starting Hollywood?
I mean, do you still start Andrews with confidence? His last two weeks we've seen him, he's
You don't
been
have a choice.
bad.
You don't have a choice.
I think with the lack of targets, I mean, Boykin got looks this week and put up some points. Moreover, Hollywood too, and Hollywood's been running his mouth about how upset he is with the lack of targets.
So that could be a good thing. So that turns out to be a good thing a lot of the times. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease, baby. And maybe that's coming this week, and he's going to take it all the way to Hollywood.
No, I hate Hollywood Brown this season. It's just that pass offense just does not look great. I mean, we saw Willie Snead was the leading receiver last week against Pittsburgh. It's like, what is he? Probably like the third option here. So it's terrible to start a Baltimore.
He's probably their leading receiver in yards.
Probably. But no, I mean, I would avoid all Baltimore wide receivers.
Yeah, this is an awful matchup as it is. So, but I would still start Mark Andrews. I'll never not start him ever, never ever, never ever.
Donuts for you.
He gets too many red zone targets, and like I said, Lamar, I think he had 2 turnovers in the red zone. So those could have been opportunities for Andrews, who is normally their red zone target. So I'm not really worried about him.
Okay. To transition it over smoothly, would you rather start Andrews or Burton this week?
Andrews.
Well, yeah, I think you just have more confidence in Andrews from his past, but Trey Boo continues to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Found that end zone again. I mean, their tight ends just produce somehow. I'm pretty sure Jack Doyle scored as well, which is just like, both tight ends found the end zone. So I think Trey Burton can kind of be started going forward in every game. They get him involved on
with the tight ends, the way they're looking. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's like running the ball. He has 2 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 games he's played.
He's been known as a great runner for his career.
Yeah. With this running back situation, though, he might get some more rushes. So we saw Jonathan Taylor kind of disappear in the second half. News has came out since that said he was kind of nursing an injury, and they didn't want to risk it. But with that being said, like Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins both came in and had productive days in terms of fantasy. Where are you guys at now with this backfield in Indianapolis?
Nowhere this week. I am nowhere this week against Baltimore.
I'm not paying any attention to it.
Yeah,
but if you want to, you're saying yeah, I mean, it hasn't been consistent enough. The whole Indianapolis Colts team has just been like up and down, and it's because their defense is so good and scoring all their points, and just they don't need to do too much. Wild Phil had his best game of the season this past week, but yeah, it's just been pretty scarce there with the fantasy points. It's really just the tight ends. It's weird. Ollie Cox.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I think I'm not avoiding this backfield against the Ravens. Like, we've seen this Colts offense now for 8 weeks, and we know that they're going to be heavily leaning on the run. Like, one of these guys, even though it's a terrible matchup, someone's going to be relevant in this matchup just because that's the way that this offense moves. So I think it's important to keep an eye out on Jonathan Taylor's status as we move forward through the week, see if he actually misses this game. I don't think there's any news right now that he's expected to miss. It was just something that he's considered day-to-day at this point. But I think if Jonathan Taylor plays, I don't think I've lost confidence just because of one game. We've seen
one game.
I mean, he's been consistent every other game. I think he's had 1 week below 10 points. Other than that,
I think he's been one of the biggest disappointments at running back aside from CEH.
I mean, he just hasn't had that boom game, I think is what you're missing.
Got the best offensive line and
Yeah, but he's been
arguably the best
he's been
offensive
splitting
line in
reps
the
all
league. He's just
year.
running into people.
He's still putting up points. It's just not a huge point factor. He's been consistent. I think that's what Stefen's trying to say. You can pretty consistently rely on him to get you 10, 12 points in each game.
He's like David Montgomery this year. That's they're probably like equivalent in points, I'd guess.
I'd
It's
put
just
Taylor,
like okay,
Taylor
it's
a little bit higher.
it's like it's low. It's just a low ceiling. Low ceiling, low floor. I mean, he's just right in between.
But he doesn't have a low floor. He had one game where he was injured. Like other than that, he doesn't have a low floor. He's been consistent all year in terms of double digits outside
I
of
should
one.
just say
His lowest game was week 8.
medium floor, low ceiling. So he's living in like kind of a miniature house, maybe a shed, something like that.
Yeah. See, I'm not pivoting away from Jonathan Taylor if he plays. I think they go right back to him. They have him as the lead guy. But if he doesn't play, I think Jordan Wilkins is someone that you can start. Like when Jonathan Taylor stepped out, like he got.
Did you start Wilkins this week?
Yeah, because I just this offense. This is how they like. If I had faith that Phillip Rivers is going to come out and if Jonathan Taylor misses, that it's just going to be all passes. It's not. Like that's not how they want to play offense in Indianapolis. They're going to run the ball, even though it's a tough matchup. Someone's going to be productive in this matchup. So I don't think I'm going to pivot away from him just because it's a tough matchup. Let's talk about some of these other options, though. We talked about Burton, but what about Doyle? Are both of these guys kind of considerations for you, or is it just kind of Burton at this point?
Probably just Burton.
More Burton.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to this next matchup. We got the Detroit Lions taking on the Vikings here. Let's talk about this is actually a lot more favorable matchup in terms of fantasy production.
This should be a party.
Right. Neither of these defenses have been great. They've been giving up points left and right to all positions across the board. We'll start with the running backs for Detroit. If you didn't know, Kenny G is going to miss this game. This is going to be Marvin Jones and Marvin Hall. So let's talk about the Detroit running backs. We still have the three-piece of DeAndre Swift, Adrian Peterson, and Kerryon Johnson. Where are we at in terms of how they stand here?
Swift
non-inspiring.
Swift somehow led the team with 6 carries, but finished 4th in rushing yards this week.
Yeah, it was a weird game, and Kerryon Johnson, the ghost of Kerryon Johnson, came in and scored a touchdown, so that was pretty wild. But like we said, Matt Stafford had his best game this season, and I think Swift has the highest ceiling of those three.
Yeah.
But the floor is under the earth.
And they did play that terrible matchup against the Colts, like we were just talking about last week. So, maybe you write that game off as a terrible matchup and you plug him right back in a good one.
Let's hope so. I'm playing him.
Yeah, I think that's
against
kind
you.
of the approach.
I'm playing him against you. So
okay, well, I'll be hoping for what he did last week then.
Thank you.
But where are we at now with Marvin Jones? Like everybody has been super, super disappointed with him all year. And then he comes in, Kenny Golladay comes out, and we get 2 touchdowns from him. Keep in mind, they were on 3 receptions for 39 yards.
That's a touchdown.
I think in this matchup, you could. I mean, I know he had an easy matchup a couple weeks ago against the Jaguars and did nothing, and then played the Falcons and did nothing. So
5 for 80, dude. Not nothing.
Huh?
5 for 80 against the Falcons.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad. I'll allow that. But for leading up to that, he was definitely disappointing. Now that that's the case, I think maybe him and Stafford are friends again. Is kind of what I'm getting, what I'm taking from this. So I'd say, yeah, I'd start him this week.
Yeah, he's a good week to start Marvin Jones.
Any interest in Danny Amendola or Marvin Hall?
No, just the hawk strap.
Agreed.
Yeah. Hawkinson's been great. Like I think he's one of those guys that seems to just get it done now. I mean, especially with Kenny Golladay out, he was, Kenny Golladay is their big red zone threat. Now it's just going to be Hawkinson. So
number 4 tight end on the year.
Yeah, he should be great. All right, let's move over to the Minnesota side of the ball. Wait, first question I got is Stafford in play this week against Minnesota?
Yeah, I'd
Yes.
say so.
Yes.
Perfect.
Not too excited, but with
Obviously,
Galladay
you
out,
said you'd
but
still
we'll
start
see.
Lamar.
Always and forever.
All right, so Minnesota, I guess we'll start with Cousins. Is Cousins in play against Detroit here?
No, I'm out. I'm out on Cousins right now. I recommended to start him to a friend last week who was up in the air with Drew Brees, Stafford, or Cousins, and they rolled out with Cousins.
I always
And
tell them against Green Bay, stop starting people.
Stafford had a great game. Cousins was actually the worst out of the three. So
do you not like that friend?
it's also a game where
Dalvin trying to get payback.
They're also had it's also a game where Dalvin Cook had 4 touchdowns. So
Did he? I didn't see that one.
passing game was a little moot
wild
at that point.
Well, you still don't believe us that the Packers have a good secondary, and obviously they Dalvin Cook took full advantage.
Dalvin Cook looked fantastic, which I think you're kind of just expecting at this point. But let's talk about the receiving option. I mean, we don't need to talk about Dalvin Cook. You play Dalvin Cook. Okay.
Correct.
Now we talk about Thielen and Jefferson here. Both of them had very disappointing weeks against that Green Bay secondary.
But again, I think Kirk Cousins threw it 12 times or something. So
was it really that low? 12?
Yeah,
It was pretty
ridiculous.
low. Yeah.
Jeez.
And
Or
Ashton
14
knew that
attempts,
was going to
yeah.
happen, and that's why he told his friend to start him.
He was actually good. He was 11 for 14 for 160 and a touchdown.
14. There you go.
That's actually a good, like, he's 78% completion percentage. That's
Yeah, but when you
fantastic.
don't have to throw the ball,
He put
I
up
mean,
10.4 fantasy points. That's not good. I
Well,
don't care what his
Yeah,
percentage
but you got to
is.
talk about the opportunity. Like, if you have 14 attempts, like, that's probably as good as you get for 14 attempts.
That's not enough. Not enough for me. I don't care. I don't care about that.
All right. I mean, obviously, Dalvin Cook's not going to score 4 touchdowns a game. Like, that's not realistic.
yeah, I think Thielen and Jefferson.
Challenge accepted. Dalvin Cook will probably score 5 touchdowns this game.
How you feeling about Big Irv this week?
I'm all in on Irv.
I know
Irv,
you've liked Irv for a while.
I think Irv is a fine start. You put him in the right matchup. I think he's a good start for you. I'd
Okay.
start him over some of these other options we've talked about.
All right.
Like who?
I'd start him over Jordan Reed.
Okay, come on. How about Trey Burton?
Big-
Trey Burton, Big Irv.
Biggest mistake of your life right there.
I'd start Irv just because of the matchup.
Good call. Logan Thomas, Big Irv. This is the question we've all been waiting for, Ashton.
See,
Come
I
on.
want to say Irv because I hate all things Washington football team,
I'm listening.
but I think
Logan.
I think I go Big Irv. though.
What?
Big Irv. Yes, sir.
Oh
That's
my
right.
God.
Correct
Big
answer.
Irv. Okay, let's get back to Thielen and Jefferson now. We saw disappointing weeks for both of them against that
They'll
Green
be
Bay
fine.
secondary. We talked about the pass attempts. You plugging them right back in, right? Like they've been
Yes, sir.
too good for fantasy.
Correct.
Even though Ashton expects to only have 14 attempts for Kirk Cousins again, we're playing Thielen, we're playing Jefferson.
We're doing it.
All right, let's move on to the next game. We got the Chicago Bears taking on the Tennessee Titans. Ashton, who on the Chicago side are you still excited about at this point?
Oh, well, you know I'm a huge, big Montgomery fan, so
Everybody is, yeah.
gonna
Montgomery.
continue to roll him out each and every week for those
Absolutely.
8 to 10 points for sure.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
I'm just I don't know. Do you find someone that's super desperate for more of a consistent play and try to bring a bigger opportunity player onto your roster, depending on what you need?
I don't think the market for David Montgomery is a good one. Like,
I'm sure it is.
nobody gets
I'd say
excited. Like,
differently.
hey, I'm gonna.
You're in a
I'm
12
gonna get
man,
David Montgomery.
12 team league, and you got someone like
But the man is the only one getting carries in Chicago. Maybe they're not good ones. Okay, I'll give you that. But he's getting them consistently week in, week out, and he's getting around
you pitch
8,
him
9
as
points?
you pitch him as a solid, consistent RB1 to someone who just doesn't know as much as the other person.
You told
You're
me
such a
earlier
swindler.
that Jonathan Taylor has been a huge disappointment. He's had 2 games under 10 points, and one was last week when he was super injured. David Montgomery has had half of his games under 10 points.
Mhm.
I sided on you with that.
No,
Stefan.
not you. I
Okay.
believe
Yeah,
in
who
what
are you
you
talking
said.
to? I mean, I don't understand that.
It's hard. You can only see his head with what he's wearing here. So it's hard
Sorry for the confusion.
Yeah, David Montgomery. Dude, I just hate the idea of David Montgomery at this point. So, hey, if you can find someone that's interested in a trade for David Montgomery, I'd
The
take all
usage is there,
pieces.
man. You just got to take it.
Usage was there last year, and you weren't
And
excited about David
he
Montgomery.
catches the ball. That's another thing he does. Jonathan Taylor, I don't think he's been doing too much catching back there.
Yeah, because all of the great receptions you get from Nick Foles these days.
Hey, man, you got to
He's
take
had
what you
one
can get,
receiving
baby.
touchdown. He's had 2 touchdowns on the year. 1 receiving touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown.
There's negative regression. It's coming. Positive regression, negative, whoever.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, you are probably starting him just because running backs are, but he's not someone you're excited about.
It's one of those plays. You know you're going to get the points. It's going to be 7-8 points, and on a good week it'll be like 11. And if he scores a touchdown, maybe 14. You know, it's just a rare
That's your
occasion.
best hope. Yeah. Allen Robinson, obviously, last week
he's the only one you're really excited about. I mean,
it was garbage time Allen Robinson last week again. Like,
Great touchdown. That
that's
was
what
a
it seems
beautiful
to get them
catch.
all.
How about Jimmy Grandpa?
he hasn't been that great the past 3 weeks. I mean, his last big game was week 5 against Tampa.
Yeah, you know his points all come from touchdowns at this point. Like, he's not going to ever rack up a ton of yards. You need a touchdown from him.
He could have a good game this week against Tennessee, though.
Tennessee's defense has been pretty disappointing, I'd say.
Yep. All right, are you starting? Are you giving a chance here to the Moon Man, Darnell Mooney, or Anthony Miller?
Get your butt out of my face. I'm not mooning anybody.
Anthony Miller was 8 for 73 against the Saints last week, and Darnell Mooney found the end zone after you talk crap about him, 5 for 69 and a touchdown.
I did not talk crap about him.
You told us he was the worst starting NFL wide receiver.
Yeah, Stefen was blasting you because you kept preaching about how bad he was.
Okay, look here. I don't want any part of Anthony Miller. I don't want any part of the Moon Man right now.
Everybody
I need to see more, okay?
Everybody listen to that. So next week, when Darnell Mooney finds the end zone again, we could tell you.
I said I'm not ready for him.
It's the Moon time.
He's had
Mooney's
one
been targeted.
good game.
Mooney's been targeted
the
5.
Moon.
Mooney's been targeted 5 times in the past 6 games.
What
5
does
or
that
more
amount to?
times in the past 6
These are
games.
Nick Foles targets, okay?
They're all bombs,
they have
dude.
not
Like,
been pretty.
He throws
Nick-
it down the field to him.
Yeah, they're gifts in the air. That's what they are.
Yeah, and sometimes it's gifts to the other team. It's a problem.
Let's get to the Tennessee side. I don't know. Who do we start with here on Tennessee?
I'll start them all, man.
You're playing everybody.
No, it's kind of. I mean, AJ Brown just does his thing. Corey Davis, what do you? I mean,
he's been on the uptick.
he's been good. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think it's. I think it's hard to. I don't know. It's a tough one for me. John, who's been kind of on the down slope. I'm hoping he hits a jump and flies back up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to start getting realistic about Corey Davis here. We're always so confident on AJ Brown, like, oh yeah, AJ Brown just gets it done. He's great.
He's the
But
man.
When you compare the two of them stats, let's just take a look at it here. AJ
Okay.
Brown has 27 receptions for 356 yards, right? Corey Davis.
How many
has,
games?
I think they both have the same amount of games played, don't they?
I don't know. I'm
Davis
asking you.
has-
I've got Davis pulled up.
Davis has 5 games played.
Yeah, they both have the same amount of games played.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so back to what I was saying. AJ Brown has 27 catches, 356 yards. Corey
Okay.
Davis has 29 receptions, 369 yards.
Okay.
Right there, same thing together. Corey Davis has 3 touchdowns. AJ Brown has 5 touchdowns. 69 points for Corey Davis and 79 points for AJ Brown. Like,
I mean, that's clear distinction. AJ Brown's way better.
over 5. Look, that's 2 points different a game. Like, we have to be realistic.
I think
Corey
they're both
Davis-
good starters. I think AJ Brown's gonna be the touchdown man more likely than not. But yeah, I mean, I picked
Corey Davis,
Corey
back-to-back
Davis up
games.
off the waivers, man. I paid 12 buckaroos of fab, and it was great. I got him.
Yeah, I think we have to start giving Corey Davis his respect.
But is
here
this
that
the
he's a-
matchup you want to
he's a
give him his
starter.
due?
Sure.
Okay.
Like Chicago's a good defense, but I mean we've seen Ryan Tannehill is has a connection right now. He's getting it going. Didn't have the greatest fantasy week this week or last week, but I mean he's still been great in terms of actually playing it and getting the ball to his receivers. And Derrick Henry is just you always play Derrick Henry.
Yeet.
What about Jonnu? Are you fine with Jonnu still? We got 3 bad weeks, 3 weeks under 4 points in a row here.
With
Still
the
got
tight end
confidence?
landscape, that's just another one of those tight end landscapes. I mean, if you can pivot in this certain situation, trying to see how they are against tight ends.
28th against tight ends.
Give me some John Newton. I'll take him. I'll take him.
Yeah,
for a drive.
I would keep him on against Chicago.
Fair enough. All right, let's jump into this next one here. We got the Carolina Panthers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes just lit it up last week. Him and Tyreek Hill were just bombing them down the field to him, and he was making it happen. But let's start on Carolina side. Possibly, we finally might be to the point where we get Christian McCaffrey back in. They've already said Mike Davis is still going to have some sort of role with Christian McCaffrey back. But I think this is when we really start to consider that this might be the week that Christian McCaffrey comes in. No news yet as to the exact chances of him playing. But from my perspective earlier on in the week, I think this is more likely than not that Christian McCaffrey returns. All these Christian McCaffrey owners who have been waiting for him to come back, where should their confidence kind of stand if he is to play in first week back since week 2?
He'll be fine.
Yeah, if he's coming back on the field,
He's gonna be good.
He's
on there. He's out there.
You need to have your confidence instilled in him.
Always
Don't
and
get
forever.
fooled. I mean, look at what he did. He played 2 games. He had 27 points, 22 points. 22 points was against Tampa Bay's rush defense, we always talk about. We hate that matchup, but it's Christian McCaffrey.
I'm
Don't be a
expecting about 17.5 points.
That's a
It's
disservice.
just me spitballing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Write that down,
Sure.
please. Write that down. You write that down.
We have it recorded.
Where do you guys stand though with Roby and DJ Moore? This is a tough Kansas City secondary. We've seen them shut down receivers in the last couple weeks. They're the 4th best defense against fantasy wide receivers. Where are you guys at with Roby Anderson and DJ Moore?
Probably. I mean, yeah. If I have Roby, I'm still going to start him with confidence. Hopefully, he utilizes his speed a little bit more, gets himself some separation from coverage there. But I'm also kind of eyeing Curtis Samuel a little bit.
Don't do it.
I think
don't
that's
know.
going to change.
Yeah.
They're not going to use him the way they were once McCaffrey's back. I don't think. They won't be giving him the ball. Like
Maybe not the greatest pickup for this week, but
maybe see what it looks like with C-Mac back.
Yeah, I'm kind of just curious to see how they continue to use him. I mean, he's been good, and I was this close to picking him up. Well, better than I anticipated.
One big game.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
Yes,
He's
one
had,
big
he's
game.
had 2 games in a row where he's gotten end zone. But dude, he's still the 3rd wide receiver. His real value has been these little trick plays where they let him run the ball, but
Which I'm okay with. I like that.
But it's not going to
but
happen. I don't think it's. I think it's just going to be gone with.
consistency of that,
You think it's just
CMC 's
game
too
stripped
good.
until CMC comes back and they're going to go back to normal?
Yeah, I mean they're trying to get him involved in terms of like trick plays, keep the offense kind of varied and kind of multiple different facets to it. But when Christian McCaffrey's back, this offense is Christian McCaffrey. Every snap, like what was he in terms of snap percentage last year? I think it was like 95% or something.
Like a billion.
Something insane where it's always Christian
101%.
McCaffrey.
Yeah. All right.
But obviously, I think.
All right.
I don't know. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, Robbie hasn't been over like 8 points in the past few weeks. Are you guys concerned about that at all? Or you still think he's getting the targets and it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't killed you, but he hasn't been great. What do we have? 9.7 points, 10.4 points, and 7.3 points over the last 3 weeks. Like, those aren't great, but they're not killing you either. He's not giving you those 0-point games. So I think you can kind of try to look for a better option if possible against Kansas City and probably next week against Tampa Bay. But I think if he's taking you this far, you kind of still just got to ride it out with him.
Climb on his back. I got it.
Why was Moore only reeling in 2 receptions on 6 targets against Atlanta? I mean, are
It
you
was a
guys
weird
feeling comfortable
game, man.
starting them against Kansas City though?
That was the rain game, wasn't it?
What, against Atlanta?
Yeah. Last Thursday? Didn't it rain?
Yeah. Because I was in Carolina.
And he
But-
didn't get I remember he didn't get a ball or a target until the fourth quarter. It was just
Yeah, it
a
was
weird
like-
game.
Yeah, it was late.
But then he had like a 40-yard catch or something afterwards, and he
50.
ended up with 6.5. But he's slowly the past 4 weeks, he's outscored Roby by a decent amount.
Yeah, the previous
Um,
Atlanta game, he had 4 receptions for 93 yards, 17.3
Yeah, that long
points.
touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had
So
a
I
good
think
game
they're
against
both
New
really.
Orleans.
I mean, I'm. This isn't a great matchup, but I think if you've been rolling with him, you can still go.
Yeah. All right, back over to Kansas City now. Obviously, Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, those guys are every week guys. But let's get to McCole Hardman first. This was the first game I think ever so far in McCole Hardman's career that we've seen him actually look like a multiple reception kind of guy. Like instead of that big play guy, he was 7 for 96 and a touchdown against the Jets last week. Does that give you a sliver of hope that he's not just the one play bomb guy?
It's kind of frustrating because I've been trying to. I mean, I think I've named him a start of the week once or twice at least this season, where I thought, I see the potential. I know he's got the ability to be a big playmaker, especially even in the Kansas City offense there, to stand out,
Do
right,
you
as
trust him?
a receiver. But no, it's
Do you
just
trust
it's not consistent enough. It's too boom or bust. And even after a big game like this, yeah, he might get 1 or 2 more looks from his normal, but his normal is only like 2 or 3 receptions a game, if that. That's a high end of it. So no, I'm not. He might be worth a pickup if he's still on the waiver in your league and hold on to him. But I think you have other options that are going to be more consistent against. Well, and this
Yeah,
week,
it's a little scary.
yeah, that are still available. So I don't know.
If
I
you're
think he's worth a
desperate,
pickup because I
sure.
think he has the ability if Kansas City continues to use him in that fashion, but they haven't been consistent doing that. So I'm still hesitant. I'm still going to back off.
That's fair. What about this running back situation? We've seen it now for 2 weeks. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell splitting the carries. Last week, it was literally as 50-50 as it could get. They both had 9 touches, 6 rushes apiece, 3 receptions apiece. And I think their yardage differential was like 3 different yards. I think it was like 41 for one of them and 38 for the other. Like both of them weren't great against an okay Jets defense, but not a
Not
great
as bad
Jets
as
defense.
people think.
But I mean, can you play them anymore? Like, did the signing of Le'Veon Bell just make them both irrelevant for fantasy?
I mean, this matchup, I don't know. We said that this past week, but I think this is going to be a more competitive game here. But I mean, you think when you're blowing out the Jets, you just start running the ball and let Lev Bell have his revenge game. And that's why I used my start of the week. And it was dicey and scary, and it didn't work, obviously. He had 5.3 points. But I mean, someone's going to score. You just feel like one of those guys are going to get a touchdown this game, but I don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm just worried because you can't be happy about the carry. Like neither of them have had double-digit carries since Le'Veon has come in, and as a fantasy running back, like that's not something you feel great about starting.
But don't forget, the Denver game was a snow game, and it was a weird game too. But I think this week, I mean, if you drafted CEH, I think you got to play him. I mean, Lev Bell, I have Lev Bell. I'm not playing. I don't think I'm going to play him this week. I think CEH, you can start. Scaredly, terrifiedly, horrifically scared.
Yeah, outside conditions were a factor. I think in some of those, at least the Jets game, right?
The Denver game, and then the Jets game. I just don't understand why they didn't run the ball more. But Andy Reid
the Denver game. I'm sorry, yeah, and then the Jets game. Well, yeah, I think I think CH
Everyone else
is
has it out against Adam Gase. Is that what it is?
well,
And what's
rightfully so. I think this is a game where CEH could get back on track. I would lean CEH over Bell probably moving forward unless, something, crazy happens. But I think CEH is still their favored RB. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely taken its hit since Bell's come onto the team. It's just I'm not ready to sell on CEH quite yet. Conditions plus the revenge game. It's just a scenario where I kind of want to see how it unfolds maybe after the bye and then go from there.
What
The
about you,
buys
Stefen?
week 10. So
Yeah. I think I'm avoiding both of these guys until one of them is clearly the guy. They just haven't been producing since Bell came in. And if at all possible, I'd like to avoid both of them. That's not saying that one of them can't be productive until then, but I think
I think they're both going to be productive this week and shock the world.
Hey man, that's the hope for both of the managers of CEH and Bell. But let's get into the last game for this episode. We got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Buffalo Bills. I mean, on the Seattle side, Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, like just a beautiful combination. Those guys have been fantastic. Hopefully we get Chris Carson back this week.
I think he'll be back.
That's the hope. I think if he is back, you plug him right back in, huh?
Yes, sir.
yes,
Buffalo Bills are not doing great against the run this year.
Fair enough. I mean, and then you're starting Metcalf, you're starting Lockett.
I mean, Metcalf, I don't know. He's okay.
He's all right, yeah.
I mean, you went out and traded for him, so you probably know
move.
best. Yeah, I think you can start everyone on the Seattle side confidently. Carson, Metcalf, and Lockett, and I guess Russell.
Yeah, maybe. All right, let's go over to the Buffalo side. Josh Allen has been struggling these last 4 weeks. We saw 4 weeks on fire to start the year. Now we've seen 4 weeks of disappointment. This is the matchup that you kind of been waiting
get right.
For. This is it. You wanted to turn around his season here in terms of fantasy. This is the one that it should be. So I think you can plug Josh Allen right back in and expect him to be great. But if he looks like he's been looking those last 4 weeks in this game, I think this is when you start to panic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if he has a good game this week, you can consider trying to sell him. That his dude I don't know, we haven't talked about it in a while, but his playoffs schedule is awful. Chargers, well, this is leading up to it anyway. Chargers, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Denver, New England. That's not fun.
Yep. Let's talk about these running backs real quick, though.
Okay.
Devin Singletary and Zach Moss both looked good last week. I mean, this is kind of a backfield we've been avoiding all season, but they come in with a tough matchup against New England last week and both perform. On the Zach Moss side, we saw 2 rushing touchdowns. He had 14 carries for 81 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. And then Devin Singletary had 14 carries as well for 86 rushing yards. So, I mean, that's good production from both of them. Are you happy starting either of these guys this week? I mean, this is a better matchup than last week against New England.
I'm not happy, but I would lean Moss.
I'm leaning Moss. I mean, Moss, even on his first carry, just looked awesome. He had that 20 or 21 yard run as soon as he came in. I mean, I thought he looked good, and I was impressed. I was excited because I just traded for him in the Dynasty League, but
did you play him?
I did not. Sat him right on my bench, and I lost that game too. I would have won if I played him. I know. It's a darn shame. But yeah, I would lean Moss in this scenario.
Samesies.
I'm not huge on Singletary. I know he looked better in this game than games before, but I was excited to see how Moss played.
Yeah, it looks like Moss is getting those red zone carries, which are the valuable ones. He just hasn't been involved really in the passing game as much as you were kind of hoping for. I know he had that one receiving touchdown like in the first game, but since then, it just doesn't look like he's super involved.
It's
Which
the
is
Josh Allen effect. He doesn't
the one
throw the
thing you're worried
ball.
about.
He doesn't do dump offs too much. He just takes it himself.
Well, let's talk about his wide receivers because this is the matchup you want if you're a wide receiver. This is the
them
worst
all.
defense against wide receivers. Stefen Diggs is must start. He's been great all year. But let's talk about Cole Beasley and John Brown. Cole Beasley and John Brown both had terrible weeks last week, but again, Josh Allen had a bad week. You guys are fine with playing both of them in this matchup?
I'd play
Yeah,
them both.
it's hard for the receivers to have a good game when the quarterback isn't having a good game.
That's
Just
correct.
So yeah, if Allen can get back,
that checks out.
yeah, unless Allen can get back on track. Yeah, I'm still high on Beasley. I think he's a good play for this week as well.
Yeah, I think,
Less so on John Brown.
I think I play Brown and Beasley in this matchup just because Seattle's just been dominated by every wide receiver that they face. Doesn't matter what team you play for, you can dominate Seattle secondary. So I think you can play them all there. But that does it for our first half of matchups. You guys have anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, that's it.
Good luck on your waivers.
Yeah, it's a wasteland out there, but you got to find what you got to find.
Truth.
All right, guys,
Alrighty.
make sure to send up any of your lineup questions for the next episode. We'll try to answer them during the podcast. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. But until then, goodbye.
See ya.